los estudiantes de Python. It's Prof G, and in this lesson we'll ask, ¿Dónde está la biblioteca? And the answer will be the Adafruit LED Animations library and its color submodule. This handy library has lots of features we'll cover in future lessons, but in this lesson we'll learn how to import 17 predefined colors with a single line of code. Holy Crayola box! We'll also add support for this library in our PyCharm package, and we'll add the library to our CircuitPy board's lib folder using CircUp. We'll learn how from import differs from the import statement we've been using previously, and we'll learn about the \line continuation character, gain all sorts of useful tips along the way, and we'll use our new colors in a quick challenge. Let's get colorful and ignite the big learning. So plug in your board, then launch PyCharm, and if you're new to the playlist, here's where you can catch up on the goodness that brought us all to this point. So if you've been following our playlist, the last file you probably worked on was the Loop the Rainbow challenge. But many of the prior challenges have used these colors for the Roy G. Biv plus black and white, but I'm going to show you that there's an even better way to get predefined colors. They're built into a library called Adafruit_LED_animation. Now this library is fantastic. There's a learn guide on this on the Adafruit website, and we'll spend more time with this library in a future lesson. But in this lesson, I just want to use it to import colors. Now with just a single line of code, we can import 17 predefined colors. Now even though that's just a single line of code, with 17 colors, it's a pretty big line of code. We need to name all of those colors. So to help out, what I've done is created a Google Doc so that we can go to that and just copy and paste that single line of code. You can find it at this URL. Open a browser and go to bit.ly/CircuitPython-colors, all lowercase. So again, bit.ly/CircuitPython-colors, and that should bring up this Google Doc. You can ignore everything else, but I want you to highlight the line that's below the comment that says new colors. So you can highlight the word from all the way through the color black. Believe it or not, even though it's showing 3 lines in my document, that's just 1 line. So copy it, and then let's return to PyCharm, and we'll paste it in below the import statement. Now there are a couple of things that we need to do first. Number one is PyCharm doesn't seem to recognize that there's a library named Adafruit LED Animations, and it doesn't seem to get this color package that's inside of it. And we know that because even though we entered valid code in here, PyCharm is giving us a bunch of squiggly red underlines to indicate that it thinks that there are errors. Now do you remember why this might be the case? We only did this once. It was a few lessons ago, but whenever we work with a library that's not part of the CircuitPython-stubs, we need to import that package into our PyCharm project. Now the good news is, as long as we use the same PyCharm project, we only need to do that once. Now do you remember how to import packages? We go to the Settings menu. In the Mac, that's under the PyCharm menu. In Windows, it's under File. And under Settings, under our project, we should find the Python interpreter. And then when we open this up, we should be able to click on the plus sign to install a new package. And here you can just search on animation. But I'd also mention that all of the official CircuitPython libraries start with Adafruit-CircuitPython-. But what we want is this one here, Adafruit-CircuitPython-LED-animation. Select that, then click Install Package. When it's installed, click Close, click OK. And when we imported those packages, now PyCharm knows about those libraries, so the squiggly red lines go away. And the other thing we need to do when we work with a new library in our code, it involves our board. Now, if we're going to be using a new library on our board, we need to add that library to our board's lib folder. And we can use CircUp for that. Hopefully everybody here went through the earlier CircUp lesson. So to work with CircUp, let's open the terminal. And you want to be at the % command prompt, so if you're still in TO, you can Control Q and T, and that should get you back to the command prompt. That should work, but sometimes it doesn't work, and it's not working for me right now. If that doesn't work, you can quit out of PyCharm, unplug your board, plug it back in, get back into PyCharm. Hopefully that'll work. And before I enter the command, I'm going to shrink my PyCharm window a little bit and open up my CircuitPy volume and navigate to the lib folder. So I'm positioning this so you can see what's going to happen to the lib folder after we type our CircUp command. Now the CircUp command to install the LED library is going to be CircUp space install space Adafruit underscore, not a dash this time, LED underscore animation. Just like this, press return, and CircUp chugs away, and it'll take a moment or two, but keep your eye on your board's lib folder. we see the folder for the new library show up in the board's lib folder. And it's interesting, this is a full folder. It's not just a single file. So a few additional files were installed in here in the lib folder. And so with the package imported into our PyCharm project and the libraries we're going to use now in our board's lib folder, we're ready to work with our new library in our code. Now what this code does is it's a form of the import statement. It's going to go into Adafruit _LED_ animation library. This is actually a package that contains a bunch of additional libraries within it, and the dot notation says go into the LED animations color library and import all of the named colors. So that's the colors that you see here in all caps. Those are variable names that are predefined in the color library. So we're importing these variables in one by one, and we're not importing the whole library. Now using a statement like this, from import, imports from the module or the library just the things that we need. So there's a lot of stuff that exists inside of Adafruit _LED_ animation, but by saying from the library name import, we're just importing the things that are listed after this import statement. But another advantage we have in using this from library or module import name syntax is that we don't have to preface the names of the things that we import with library names. And it's tough to describe, so the best way to show you is probably with a quick example. And I've sped this up just to show you some syntax. So I've commented out the from import statement we pasted in, and instead I'm using the standard import statement here to import Adafruit _LED_ animation, and that imports everything. Now, normally, when you use an import statement like this that imports everything, you've got to use the library, then dot notation to refer to any functions, classes, or variables inside of it. For example, this is what we're doing here where we say NeoPixel dot NeoPixel. We go into the NeoPixel library, we get the NeoPixel class blueprint, or here when we say board dot NeoPixel in all caps, we say go into the board library and get the NeoPixel value. So if I imported the LED animation library like this, the whole library, and I wanted to use any of the colors inside that library, I'd have to add the name of the library in front like I'm doing in pixels.fill here. I'd have to write Adafruit _LED_ animation.color, then .red. This is very unwieldy, and you can see if I tried to say pixels.fill with just red, red isn't recognized, that's going to give me an error. So this statement from whatever the library is, import just the names of the things you want. So in this case, it's just the color variables, is a nice way of being able to cut out having to add the library name to a value. And it makes sense here because I might type the colors on multiple lines. Here with NeoPixel and board, it's not a big deal because I'm only going to use those once. Well, cool. So from now on, we'll use just these colors. And again, you can continue to define any colors that you don't see in here if you want to. That's totally fine, but we'll just use these colors, and we can delete the rest of the code from the colors on down, keep the pixels definition in here, and I want to show you another bit of goodness before the challenge. This line we have here with all of our colors is pretty unwieldy. You've got to scroll all the way to see the rest of your code, and that's not really good when, you're trying to refer to variables that are in your code. Well, Python has a character that lets us split up a really long line like this onto several lines, but allows it to act like it's one big line, even though it spans multiple lines. And that's the backslash character, not the forward slash that you use as the division operator or in URLs. The backslash is the one that goes in the other direction. You can find it on the US keyboard just above the return key. So I'm going to enter a backslash just before the color green, and I'll press return, and look at this. Not only do I get no errors, but PyCharm also indents the line below this for me to give me a nice visual cue distinguishing this as an extension of the line above it. And I'm going to add another backslash just after aquas comma, and I'll press return. Looking good. Backslash for line continuation. And now it's time for a challenge. So now that you've imported 17 new colors, you know how to use lists, and you know how to use for loops to go through those lists. Use these new nuggets of knowledge to create an array named colors that contains all 17 of the color variables that you just imported. So in the way that you created an array with strings before, well, you can create an array with color variables too. Then write code that iterates through all 17 of these colors, flashing all the lights on your circuit playground in one color, then wait 0.2 of a second, then move on to the next color in the list. And when you've gone through all 17 colors, you should repeat from the first color over and over again in an infinite loop. And when you're done, save your work as list-rainbow-flash.py. The goodness should look like the example that you're seeing at the right. Pause. Give it a shot. You can refer to the earlier video if you need to remind yourself how to do certain things, but I know you can solve this challenge. And when you're done, resume, and let's compare answers. Now I want to use all 17 color names in a list. So the first thing I'm going to do is to highlight all 17 color names and copy them. Then down below pixels, we can call our list colors. So I'll write colors equals, open square brackets, PyCharm writes the closed square brackets. I'm going to paste in the colors you just copied and look at all of those values. We've got a list. Now here's the thing. We can actually include list values on separate lines without using the backslash character. We can just use returns and you'll see this works fine. So I'm going to remove the backslashes and put this whole list on a single line. And then I'm just going to add carriage returns where we want to. And you'll see PyCharm indents the line below so that it lines up with the first element in the list. Now you might have said, hey, did we have to use the backslash character with the import statement above? And you didn't have to, but I'll show you the reason why the backslash character is a better solution in just a bit. Let's finish this solution first. And below this, let's enter the for loop that iterates through our colors list. Now, if you use an index technique instead of an iteration, that's totally fine too. I didn't ask you to use a specific technique. You should know how to use them all. But here I'm going to say for color in colors, colon. It's really common to use a plural word for the name of the list and a singular word as you iterate through that list. Now, this iterates through all of the colors, and it pulls out each element one at a time and puts that singular element for the loop pass into the color variable. So we'll return here. We're indented on the next line below the for statement. We're just going to say pixels.fill in between parens, pass in color, singular. Oh, and we need a time interval. So why don't we add a variable for that up top? Time underscore interval equals 0.2. And below our pixels fill line, we'll add time.sleep between parens, passing in time underscore interval. Now I also said to perform this in an infinite loop, and you know how to set that up. Above our for loop, we'll just add while, space, capital T, true, colon, and then we can highlight the lines below that and tab over, and that'll indent things. Nice! So this is looking great. Let's get into the terminal, make sure TO is running, then save. Check out our board, and hacker, look at you. You're painting the rainbow. Hopefully you got the solution, and if not, now you know so you can retry the challenge again later on until you've got this down cold. And oh, let me show you the backslash character thing above. So I can remove the backslash characters in my import statement to get it back on a single line, but watch what happens if I add a return character to split this line. You see how PyCharm formats the next line way over under the import statement? If we did this, the code would be running across more lines. We'd have a lot of unused white space over on the left. I think the backslash character is a lot more elegant. You can use either technique if you'd like, but I'm going to undo this and go back to the backslash characters. And I'll add a comment up top that says list-rainbow-flash.py, and I'll save this to my CircuitPython school folder on my computer, and then close the extra tab so that I return to code.py on my board. Lightmeisters, there was more big learning in this lesson. We used the Adafruit LED animation library's color submodule, and we used the from import statement to import 17 predefined colors with a single line. And we learned how to use from module import values to reduce naming complexity and import only values we need. We also reviewed how to import packages into a PyCharm project and how to use CircUp to import libraries into the CircuitPy board's lib folder, and we learned to use the backslash line continuation character. I hope you feel good about those skills that you're acquiring. There's more big learning ahead, but until then, continue to hack.